I'm a physical person. I'm a spiritual person. I have an emotional component. There's a mental part of me, just like there is with you. We're going to re-educate, retrain, and redistribute that information that is more palatable. We're going to pull out diagrams. We're going to understand stuff so that way you can function in your world. But what does that also mean long term? Birth is the continuation of that cycle, and it continues into the postpartum. And so if we don't understand all of those things, we will have problems in postpartum. And the way we treat women in the first year post delivery is how they will be health wise in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. So if we do not get them to rest, heal, process their emotions, heal physically, you will have very sick geriatric patients in their 60s, 70s, 80s. And this is why we have problems like prolapsed bladders and organs that are drying up and shriveling up in females' bodies, which can cause atrophy and a whole bunch of other problems in women's bodies. It really goes back to how were they taken care of in that first year. We have this bounce back culture. They just went through a 9 calendar months, 10 lunar months. You want them to be back to their normal size. That isn't a thing. You transitioned from being a maiden to a mother. So you have hips now. This culture of women are to be perpetually looking like they're 17 is not only sick, but it's mentally damaging.
Hey, what's going on, dudes and dudettes? This is Drewski from Cryptid Warfare and Conspiracies Podcast, and you're listening to Kevin on Where the Weird Ones Are.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to Where the Weird Ones Are.
Yeah. Weird ones only, we talking that truth. Ghost in the attic, yeah, show me the proof. Aliens creeping, they light in the roof. Minds wide open, we shatter the booth. Conspiracies deep, we dig in the scars. Demons and angels and bodies on Mars. Cryptids be watching, they lurk in the dark. Mental on edge, but we glowing like stars. Welcome to the pod, no cap, it's a seance. Whispers in the static, spirits doing dance. Reptiles in suits, yeah, running the lands. MK Ultra made a puppet of your mans. Wendigo hunger, dogman strut, flat woods, eyes glow. Slice through the cut, Bigfoot tagging trees. Marking the trail, weird ones ride, no room for the frail. Talking about trauma, talking that soul. Peeling back layers, we dig in a hole. Sacred geometry, numbers align. Ancestors speak through the veil in the sign. Ayahuasca dreams, third eye lit. Shadow self lurking, we making it spit. No mainstream lies. This the dirt where the weird ones rise from the blood and the hurt. Weird ones only, we talking that truth. Ghosts in the attic, yeah, show me the proof. Aliens creeping, they light in the roof. Minds wide open, we shatter the booth. Conspiracies deep, we dig in the scars. Demons and angels and bodies on Mars. Cryptids be watching, they lurk in the dark. Mental on edge, but we glowing like stars. Voices in the woods got chills on the neck. Black-eyed kids at the door, now we check. CIA tapped in, fluoride drip. Project Bluebeam, watch that script. Talking about grief, talking about fear. Talking about why them voices appear. Healing the mind while breaking the chain. Spiritual warfare deep in the brain. We don't run from the strange, we live in the strange. Tattoo the truth and the scars and the pain. Stay weird, the mantra we own in the name. Reality bends, so we bend to the same. From the attic to the swamp, we tracking the freak. Where the veil get thin and the silence speak. We ain't your norm, we off that grid. Weird as the wave, yo, this where we live.
What's up, you fucking weirdos? Welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are. My name is Kevin, but you probably already knew that, and if you didn't, now you do. Today's episode is with Jessica Arno. She is the combat midwife. Go to her for learning anything off grid or emergency for midwifing and just for women's health in general. She does a whole bunch of classes, and I think it's worth checking out. All of her information will be in the show notes. Now, quick shout out to the sponsor, Flavors of the Forest, raw garlic dust. It is amazing. I put it on everything, and I highly recommend it to you. It's way more potent than anything that you're going to get at the store. I promise you. Also, my good buddy Johnny Nitro, he has Wild Beauty Product Company. You can find it at wildbeauty.com. Wild Beauty Products. Why can I fucking not speak today? What the fuck? So wildbeautyproducts.com. It's whipped tallow, moisturizer, and stuff like that. It's all natural ingredients. I like it because it doesn't make me feel fucking greasy and slimy and leave like remnants of it after rubbed it into my skin and shit. So I like it a lot. Um, so yes, so wildbeautyproducts.com, flavorsforest.com. You can also follow Flavors Forest on Instagram at Flavors Forest. So I would like to announce that I am starting a new podcast. It's a movie review podcast with two of my dearest friends, Alicia Watson from Twisted and Uncorked. She also is the voice behind Truly Twisted podcast, and then David, my good buddy David, who I do Weird Java with, and the David Don't Know podcast. So if you would be so kind, give us a follow on Instagram. The first episode it will be dropping on October 6th, and that's just a trailer review. So what we're gonna be doing is we're gonna review the trailer first, and then the next week's episode will be the review of the actual movie. Um, so I thought, so yeah, so it's gonna technically the technical tech bleh, technical episodes will be every other week. And then the other weeks will be trailer reviews. So it'll be the movie that we're going to be watching. So, the first episode, we've already recorded it, is on weapons. So please give us a follow, check us out. We'll should be on Instagram and all audio platforms. I don't think we're gonna be doing posting the trailer reviews, but we might on audio. But anyways, I'm fucking talking way too much. But yeah, Jessica is an amazing person, and I'm really happy to have had this conversation. And I really enjoyed it, and I think I'm gonna have to have her come back because I do think that I have more questions for her, to be honest with you. I think taking care of our women, and no matter what time, fashion, whatever, no matter whether the grid's gone down or the grid is up and running to full potential, like I think all of our women need to be taken care of, especially when they're pregnant. Um, their hormones are all over the place, and they need to be comforted, and they need to be taken care of. And then postpartum, I definitely think we're lacking in that department right now as a society of taking care of our women after birth. They're expected to get right back into the workforce or expected to, like you see in the clip in the beginning, they're expected to bounce back to their original shape, which is never going to happen. Even they can get really close. I'll be honest with you. I've seen some amazing things. Women are resilient. Women are fucking strong. A lot stronger than I'd think that I could ever be giving birth and shit. So, um, but anyways, um, I have my book out. My book is out on Amazon. The Adventures of Rizzo and Weird Son, Monster Hunters. The first book is very short, very to the point, very actiony, and very comic-esque because I wrote it as a comic first. But book two should be coming out soon. And yeah, I'm excited for it. More character building, more of a storyline, and I'm excited for you guys to read it. If you do pick it up, please leave a rating and review. It will help me a lot there. I really don't care if you don't leave a rating and review for the podcast, but for the book, I would greatly appreciate it. That would mean the absolute world to me. I mean, it means a lot to me when I get reviews and ratings and shit for the podcast, but it really means a lot to me. It would mean a lot to me for the book. That's what I want. That's what I would like to do with the rest of my life is write fictional stories. And hopefully write screenplays. I am working on one right now, so we'll see what happens with that. But if you are experiencing any kind of mental distress, please, here in the United States, dial 988. That is the suicide prevention hotline, and they are equipped to help you with any mental health needs. Also, if you need to help somebody that's experiencing a mental health issue, you can also dial them and they will help them. So they can help you, they can give you resources and whatnot so that you can help your friend or a family member or whatever, you know? So, it's a good program. So utilize it wisely. And I think it's important for you to stay another day. You don't wanna transfer that trauma. I know you don't, because if you do it, that's what's happening. That's what's gonna happen. There are so many people out here that love you, and, I hope that this message reaches you at a time that, you need to hear it. So, take care of yourself. That's what I think a lot of, this society does is kinda break us down. There's a lot going on. I'm not gonna speak on it. I'm actually gonna try and steer away from politics for a little while. Not, I don't know. So everything that I've seen this past week, it just um kind of turned it kind of awoken something into me, and I think I'm gonna get baptized 100%. I think, and with the podcast, I think I'm gonna focus more on, um, people's experiences, people's stories. I don't think I'm gonna do conspiracy Tuesdays anymore, but the keep digging where I dig into conspiracies and stuff. I mean, not probably. I'm still gonna be doing that for my Patreon members. I actually kind of really enjoy writing, so I like writing the script. It's a lot of fun. It's a long process, but I mean, the end product is, I think I enjoy it. I enjoy it. I enjoy listening back to it. So, but if you do decide to become a Patreon member, you can get the RSS feed on the Patreon and plug it into your favorite podcatcher, and you can listen to it that way. You don't have to keep it on the Patreon app. But I mean, you still can if that's what you choose to do. So if you do decide to become a Patreon member, it's $5 a month. You get a free coffee mug, and you get early access to the show, and you get the extra podcast. Keep digging. So yeah, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. If your podcatcher does not allow you to leave a review, please consider doing so on the website where the weird ones are podcast.com. Okay. That is where you can also get the hot sauce, coffee, supplements, and the merch, much like the shirt that you see behind me if you are watching this. There's also a ton of other designs there. There's I just dropped some new ones which I need to add to the website so you guys can find them. But there's a ton of designs there, and I hope you guys check it. If you guys do decide to get like a t-shirt or something, please um send me a picture of you wearing it so that I can add you to my photo gallery. Um, but I understand if you don't want to do that, that's totally fine. So I'm just saying. Um, and now I've talked your ear off for fucking 10 minutes. So let's get into the show with Jessica, shall we? Oh yeah, I forgot to mention I am wearing glasses today. These are blue lens glasses, so they help with tiredness looking at the screens all the time. So, like, I don't wanna strain my eyes more than necessary, I guess, if that makes sense. So they're not like prescription glasses, so just so you know. That's all. That's all I wanted to say. So let's get into today's episode with the Combat Midwife, Jessica Arno. go production.
But
Okay.
anyways, for welcome to another episode of Where the Weird Ones Are, everybody. So happy to have you here. I have a lovely guest. So your last name is Arno, is that how you say it?
Yes, it is.
Okay, perfect. All right. I thought I should have asked you before we started recording, but that's all right. So my guest today is Jessica Arno. She is a midwife, paramedic, and battlefield-born educator who's trained over 100,000 combat medics, special warfare medics, and EMS professionals in OBGYN and pediatric emergencies, from Afghan refugee camps to rural fire stations. She equips medics and civilians with the skills to handle birth, bleeding, and babies. When help isn't coming, her fast-paced, no fluff training is changing the face of pre-hospital care, one confident responder at a time. I love that. That is amazing to me, because I think midwives are kind of like a dying profession, and we had a midwife for our firstborn, and it was astronomically 10 times better experience than the hospital. So granted, it was still like a hospital setting. It was still a hospital, but she was great. She was fantastic, and I wish I would have done with the other two kids. Would have went there as well, but it was just so far at this point. So we just went with the closest thing, and both times I was just like, I really prefer the midwife, because like not only was she amazing, but the hospital itself felt like a hotel room rather than a hospital. So it was great. But anyways, so other than that, do you have anything to add to what you do for the listeners?
Oh gosh, I do a lot of things. I wear a lot of hats. I train military and EMS and civilian people how to take care of women and children in a grid down, austere, nobody's coming to help you situation. And more of those situations are arising. Each day we wake up, there's a new disaster, a new crazy situation happening in the world. And while we can sit here in a first world country and kind of say, oh, that'll never happen here, just look at anything that's happened even in the last couple of years. Everything from riots in California to floods in Texas to floods in North Carolina. I mean, who would have thought we've had a flood in North Carolina? That's insanity. And Eastern Tennessee. And so, babies are going to be born. Women are going to have life-threatening conditions and medical situations that are going to take place even in the midst of grid down scenarios. And so we need to know how to take care of those people, whether they're our families, ourselves, or our neighbors, because we're called to take care of the people in our community. And that's what I do. So women and children are very marginalized, and we're also very at risk in bad situations. We're used as collateral, we're used as pawns. And so whether we look way back in history or we just look last week, we can see that happening in our real world.
Yeah. Yes. There's a ton of people going off grid, and I'm 100% sure that if they're having kids off grid, that they're probably doing birthing off grid, and they're not coming back onto the grid just to have their baby. So people like you are astronomically helpful, in my opinion. And the big pharma and all that stuff is driving me crazy, to be honest with you, because I miss when doctors used to be like, well, why don't you get outside, touch some grass, and get some sunshine in your life, and see what happens. And it's become, well, let's see about this pill. Well, I'll write you a prescription for this pill, or I'll write you a prescription for that pill, and
Right.
whatnot. So, yeah. So I think it's essential for us to know how to take care of our women and our children.
Right. And I've used the lessons learned by the military and by myself working in austere environments, and I've cultivated it in a way where now you don't have to have any medical background. You can take my class and be able to walk away and go, okay, while I'm not a paramedic and I'm not a midwife, and I don't intend to be either one of those things, right? But I took her class and I feel really comfortable taking care of my family and my community. I know a lot of people go, oh, that baby stuff, I'm not doing that anymore. Well, I carry a gun with me every day, but I don't plan to use it.
Right. Right.
I have food in my fridge and I'm not going to eat in the next 3 hours. So it's all about planning and preparing and being a useful member in society, in whatever society you create for yourself. It doesn't have to be what's outside that we choose to not participate in anymore. It's the environment and the community that we create for ourselves. And so that may be 5 families on your block, right? Or that may be a really awesome prepper community, or that may be a church that you belong to. So it looks differently. And a lot of times people think that my class is just totally focused on birth. It's not. It's everything from this is what a menstrual cycle is, all the way to you have a 3-month-old who's dehydrated. What do you do? Mm-hmm. Because we have to understand that when things go wrong, and they do, the community around us, even the ones we don't want to participate with, will be aware of the fact that they have power, that they have water, that they have food. And any good mama will sacrifice herself and leave a baby on your front doorstep. There were more children left on doorsteps during World War II than could be handled by the local community. They had to create an entire agency dedicated to the abandoned children in just England alone. So think about what was going on in all the other countries during that time frame.
That reminds me of like the orphan trains in the during the World's Fairs in the 1800s as well.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you see it in movies all the time, like apocalyptic movies and stuff. There's always a need for this kind of training. And they always insert a character that is a doctor or something like that. You know what I mean? But that's not always going to be the case. When you're trying to rebuild a community and you have a group of people, you could end up with a whole bunch of people that know how to build a house, but have no idea about any medical stuff,
Right. I think it's also recognized, to branch off of what you just said, is recognizing people's specialties. Just because someone's a doctor doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to deliver a baby. And I would even say very boastfully that just because you're an OBGYN doesn't mean that you know how to deliver a baby. OBGYNs are surgeons. They know how to cut babies out of mothers. They do not know how to manage and protect normal physiological birth. Midwives do. And so it's very important for us to recognize that everybody has a specialty. While I know a lot about water purification, that's not my area of expertise. My area of expertise is children and ladies plumbing, right? Not caring for the plumbing in your house. And so being able to kind of recognize that people have specialties and calling from whoever you believe is running this whole show. And me, it's God. And so I believe that I've just been given a really great calling, and it's my job and my duty to pass the torch on to other people. 1, I cannot be everywhere. And 2, I really don't want to. So I'd love to teach other people how to be self-sufficient, self-reliant, independent, and as far away from the system as they choose to be, or provide them with really great knowledge because they just really want to be a medical missionary, or they really want to be doing NGO work and working in different places like Gaza or Syria or Africa. And that's their calling. And I'd love to be able to give them the tools that can benefit not only themselves, but the community around them.
Nice. I like that. I like what you're doing, first of all.
Thank you.
And one of the questions I have for you is, being that I am also a father, is what would be the advice for you for dads when in situations like this where they don't feel so out of the loop?
You mean to prepare for birth?
Correct. I'm sorry. I left a whole section out of that question. And that's what I meant, to prepare for birth so they don't feel so like out of the loop and they're just like, everything's chaos, you know what I mean? And they don't know what to do.
Right. Well, just like learning anything that's brand new is really immersing yourself in that new topic. So whether you're trying to learn how to put a new transmission in your favorite mid-90s Ford, or you're trying to learn how to shoot your new weapon that you've purchased, it's best to be around people that know how to do those things. And sometimes that's not in person. We live in a very detached community right now. And there's ways around that, right? We have internet communities, we have forums, we have books, we have YouTube videos, and a whole host of other things. So I would say get yourself surrounded by someone who is an expert in their field and also has the same morals as you, because that's really important. As a father, your job is to provide and protect, and Americans have whittled that down to financially. And I truly believe that it's a man's job to be providing and protecting mentally, emotionally, spiritually, financially. And so those are multiple assets that you can tap into. It's a woman's job and her journey, right? If we want to tap into some Lord of the Rings vocab, it's her journey that she's going on, and you're a supporting role. And so really tapping into some really great resources. Selfless plug, I would obviously say come hang out with me, because I'm going to teach you how to be the rockinest, coolest dad on the planet when it comes to everything pregnancy, non-pregnant women emergencies, birth, labor, postpartum, and get you through that first year. I also understand that, I may not be in your city or your area. And so we're going to be launching some really great programs next year. 2026 is huge, but I hope to have some, my book should be launching then. And so you can have something like me, in your back pocket, and that'll be great too.
Nice. Yeah, I think the same thing, that dads are more than just a wallet or
For sure.
and all that stuff. Like I come home, like, so my girlfriend, she works from home and stuff. And one of the first things that I ask her is, how, like, I'll be like, how was your day? She'll say, whatever, it was okay. And I was like, did you get outside? How are you feeling mentally? Like, there's a checklist that we go through. So, but there's so many friends and people that I've known that, well, I bought her a house, I bought her this, and I bought her that, and she's still not happy. What can I do to make her happy? What can I do to make her and the kids happy? And this and that, and like, what else do I gotta buy? I can't buy a summer home too, and this and that. And I was like, because you're not there for them. Like, you gotta be present. And that falls in line with the whole, like, with the pregnancy thing, is being aware of things that you can do to help her out with throughout the pregnancy, and not just be present. You're not, you got to be, like you said, Lord of the Rings, she's Frodo, you're Samwise. You're doing everything you possibly can for her.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's very vital for us to understand while our rules are different, they are complementary, and for us to play off of each other. So just like I said, I believe that men are meant to provide and protect emotionally, mentally, spiritually, etc. I think that could also be said for females. We're just doing it in a different way. So I'm creating a home for you. I'm building your children. I'm sacrificing my human body for you, for our lineage, for our tribe, however you want to think about it. And so for us to kind of have reverence for both parties and honor and respect and dignity for both parties is really important, and melding those together. So I talk a lot about that in my classroom, and I've had men walk away going, okay, I don't know what I was expecting, but I definitely wasn't expecting this. I've never felt so empowered. I've never felt so independent about a topic that I know nothing about. It's not my I didn't think it was my favorite topic, and now I just can't wait to have this kid.
So shoot, I had a question that I formed in my head, and I always forget it when I form it in my head and I don't have them written down, because when I'm going off of organic conversation and I'm thinking about it while you're talking, it always ends up going out. But maybe we'll come back. Oh, I remember what it was now. Real-time thought process. So I was reading up on a lot of history and stuff, and it wasn't particularly in this topic. I love history, and I love learning new things. So, but I don't know if it was like I can't remember what year it was. It might have been World War II era, possibly, but either they were. It seemed like they were trying to say midwives were witches or something like that at some point.
Okay, so that's the smear campaign that took place in the late 1800s, early 1900s, when Rockefeller cronies took over the medical, what we now like to call the medical industrial complex, but back it was the schooling and the education. And so they wanted to make money off the other 50% of the populace that was traditionally only cared for by women, hence the name midwives. It means woman caring for other women, women with women. And so they created a smear campaign. They actually made wanted posters for these women, and they said that, they're immigrants, they're dirty, they're uneducated, they don't speak English, they carry diseases, as if it was a post for, a wanted poster for Ratatouille. And it was just kind of silly, right? Like, why are you making them sound like they're New York rats? Right? So, yeah, they just created this really big campaign. I'm since you did your homework, I'm super duper impressed. No one's ever known this before. I've talked about it in podcasts, so kudos to you. I usually bring it up and everybody's going, what? But if you wanted to search for it, you could just put midwife smear campaign in any search engine, and choose images, and you'll actually see the wanted posters they had all over the place.
Yeah, so that's what I ended up coming across, and I think it was in New York, now that you say that. And it was of an immigrant woman, and I thought, I mean, it very much could have been, but it looked like they were basically calling her a witch, and that you should go to a hospital rather than choosing a midwife and stuff like that. And I was like, this is this is more recent than the witch trials. But I was just like, what they were still going off witch stuff at this point.
Yeah, they absolutely were. They made us kind of sound like we were crazy people. But hey, they've been saying that about women since the beginning of time.
That's true. That's true. You used to be able to just take your wife to the loony bin and be like, she's crazy, and they'd be like, oh yes, sir, yes, we got her, we got it, and then she would not be heard from ever again.
And if you didn't want to be married anymore and you wanted to upgrade to the new 20-year-old, you would just say that she's crazy and send her to the loony bin. That is true. And it progressed and became it turned into new and different things like shock therapy, lobotomies. All of that was really practiced on women. So yeah, fun times for us.
Terrible. I don't like it. I don't even wish that upon an enemy. So
No,
let alone somebody that I proclaimed to love at one point.
Right.
You know, even if I don't love her anymore, like I did at one point, and I'm not gonna do that shit to her. Like that's weird. That's weird stuff.
And the mother of your children, right? Because they would have had a slew of children. They're like, "See you later, lady. We'll just send you to the crazy pen."
Yeah, and it makes me also wonder because when I hear stories of like back in the day and stuff like that, it seems like men didn't not all men, all fathers, but it seemed like most fathers didn't even really care about their kids. They just did whatever they wanted to do, and then if they wanted to smack around their wife or again put her in the loony bin, friggin', that's what they did. And then they were like, all right, well, these kids are gonna go somewhere else now, and I'm gonna start a new life. And I was like, because I like history so much, it just when I read these stories, I'm just like, do you not like your kids? Like, this is weird. It just the kids were always women and children seem to be treated like you. Even earlier in the beginning of this, you were talking about how you're used as pawns and bargaining chips and stuff like that. They were just thrown to the wayside for men to just continue on their life like nothing ever happened. And I was just like, I mean, there's also a lot of stories of loving fathers, so like they outweigh each other. But I'm just saying, like, it was. Right. I mean, still to this day, too, there's dads that could care less. But it seems like a lot of these stories in history are more prevalent.
For sure, and I think that also plays into why women were angry and they wanted voting rights, is they wanted to be able to get themselves out of the situations that their fathers would have put them in, right? Because they would have been married off, and they wanted a way to be able to say, hey, can I please get out of this? I don't want to have to ask somebody for money so I can feed myself or feed my children or take care of myself. I want to be able to get out of that. And I don't necessarily disagree with that. I don't think that women and children should be put in situations where they're abused in any fashion. And physical abuse is not the only form of abuse. And so we see it today too, right? Like we see what's happening in Gaza. We see what's been happening years in Syria. We know what they do to women and children in other countries where you don't obey, you disappear. You're a mound of dirt in the backyard somewhere. We'll never see you again, right? And that's not right. That's not godly. That's not biblical. It's nothing I believe in. And so I would like to be able to help people take care of those that are marginalized.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, that's a nice thought. Because there was a story I heard from a military guy. He was on a few, maybe it was just one podcast, or maybe I just heard the story from somebody on a podcast of their friend in the military. Sure. Either way, he said that when we first deployed over in Afghanistan and stuff back in 2001, 2002 era, that he was seeing a lot of these Afghan men, like truck drivers and stuff, and they're working and all this, and they have a little boy with them. And they're like, he's like, oh, that's nice. They have they're able to bring their kids to work and stuff like that. And apparently, there was a guy that a superior officer was like, no, that's not their kid.
Nope.
But don't mess with it. We're not here to mess with their culture. This is how they've been living for years. And he's like, what do you mean? He's like, it's their toy. It's their pet kind of thing. So basically, they're perpetuating a high level of pedophilia over there constantly.
Yeah. Boys are for fun and women are for reproduction.
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I heard that for the first time probably about 2 months ago, and I was like, "What? That is wild." If any culture, I don't know, if I could get even if it's your culture for the past thousand of years, your culture is freaking corrupted
Wrong, wrong, and
somewhere. Yeah, exactly, exactly my thoughts, and they even talk about it in for Rome and and things that led
yeah,
to the fall of Rome, the Roman Empire, and all that. And I'm seeing, me personally, I'm seeing a lot of parallels in America currently.
well, the
Um,
Crusades were way more about a lot of different things we don't talk about. It wasn't just land grabs.
right, right, right. There was yes, it was probably like, hey, these people over here are into little boys, we should go take that land from them because that's not cool. It's stuff like that, in
That's
my opinion.
Yes, that's exactly what's going on. Is it's not correct, and since right is right and wrong is wrong, we're going to get rid of the wrong so the right can prevail.
Exactly,
That's
exactly.
the
And
Crusades in a nutshell.
right, and it wasn't only, I have to say this a lot too, and if, I mean, people might get upset, it's okay. These are my thoughts, Kevin speaking, not Jessica. But it wasn't only white Europeans that were taking land and conquering other peoples. So there was
No,
many colors, many different cultures, all that, and people taking slaves. It was a practice that was across all peoples, not just white Europeans and
for sure,
settlers. So,
for sure.
um,
And again, it goes back to what is right and what is wrong, and when things are wrong, we have to abolish that. So that's
exactly, and that's why we abolished it, because it was not a right thing to do.
correct.
But one of the questions I have for you is, how does understanding a female cycle help women, their partners, and even medics respond better in emergencies?
Well, when you understand your partner's cycle that is on a 28-day cycle, which is mirroring the moon, women are very lunar powered, and men are solar powered, and so we have a 24-hour cycle. We have a 28-day cycle for the moon, and so you have the same changes that a woman has. You just do it in a 24-hour cycle, and I do it over a whole 28 days. And so understanding how that changes from men to women and how we look at society and how we engage in relationships is more about protection and less about the fact that you sound awful when you chew or breathe is really important, right? Like pulling those parts out of it and looking at it from a very scientific way, you can now understand, oh, she's in her luteal phase, so that means that she's withdrawing and protecting herself because she's recalibrating, right? She's recalculating and filling in the puzzle pieces that are missing hormonally, blood wise, fluid shift, things are going on inside of her body. This isn't any different than restarting a computer. If you restart a computer and you mess with the cycle of it rebooting, everything's messed up. Windows doesn't work, you can't get on the internet, it's not going to hook up to the Wi-Fi, you've messed it up. And so when men don't understand what's going on in a woman's cycle, they have it has now created a culture that is perpetuating women are just bitchy.
Yep.
And that's not fair, nor is it true, because if we're going to play those games, then we can just turn around and say men only want one thing, which is hogwash and ridiculous and isn't true, and it's very reductive. And so why don't we just look at human beings as if they are actually human beings that are built up of many different parts? I'm a physical person. I'm a spiritual person. I have an emotional component. There's a mental part of me, just like there is with you. And so when we break down what's actually going on, so for the first like 20 minutes of my class, it's really 7th grade science all over again when you were not paying attention because you were too nervous about what everybody else was thinking sitting next to you.
Mhm.
And oh my God, there's a girl in the room and someone said penis and someone said vagina and now there's blood. And it's just, it wasn't a conducive learning environment for anyone. And so I'm going to go back to that. We're going to re-educate, retrain, and redistribute that information that is more palatable. And I'm going to actually put, we're going to pull out diagrams. We're going to understand stuff so that way you can function in your world. But what does that also mean long term? Birth is the continuation of that cycle and it continues into the postpartum. And so if we don't understand all of those things, we will have problems in postpartum. And the way we treat women in the first year post delivery is how they will be health wise in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and beyond. So if we do not get them to rest, heal, process their emotions, heal physically, you will have very sick geriatric patients in their 60s, 70s, 80s. And this is why we have problems like prolapsed bladders and organs that are drying up and shriveling up in females' bodies, which can cause atrophy and a whole bunch of other problems in women's bodies. But it really goes back to how were they taken care of in that first year. But we have this bounce back culture, which if I could shoot something in the face, it would be that, because it sucks. Telling someone they just went through a 9 calendar months, 10 lunar months, 288 days worth of changes, and then you want them to be back to their normal size. You never go back to that. That isn't a thing. You transitioned from being a maiden to a mother. So you have hips now. You have boobs that are different sizes now. You don't wear the same clothes anymore. And so this culture of women are to be perpetually looking like they're 17 is not only sick, but it's mentally damaging. If you have a fetish for a 17-year-old forever and you're not 17, go talk to a therapist. Okay, that's insane. I have a woman's body. I have curves. I have boobs. I have a butt. I have hips because I'm a woman. I'm a full-grown human who's gone through that stage of development. Asking women to look like they're 17 and still fit in, size 0 Levi's is ridiculous.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. And I think that the I'm totally cool with feminism. I'm not poo-pooing it at all with this statement, but I think modern feminism has become a problem with that. So we're after a couple weeks, maybe a month at the most, a lot of women are going back to this stressful environment where they're working because they have to help provide for their family. And a lot of women are having children by themselves already. They don't have a partner, which also sucks. And I feel bad for those women, but it's forever independent woman. But so I think maybe feminism has taken it a little bit too far. Maybe I could be wrong, but there's just things that I see where I think, like I would prefer a woman take about a year after
absolutely
after birthing before they ever put themselves back in a situation like that.
1000%. And I would take it a step further, because while her body needs a year to heal at a minimum, your child needs you exclusively till they're 5, and they really shouldn't be away from you because we are meant to live in community. And again, it goes back to our society that's pushing be independent, don't need anybody, do whatever you want. It's very me centered rather than belong to a tribe. And that causes long-term problems that we don't have enough time in the world to talk about in this podcast. But that causes really big problems. So young children are not meant to be away from their mothers. And fathers do play a really big role during this time because they provide breaks for mom. They provide a structure for children that women are not typically good at providing. They also provide discipline, and they also provide fun that women just don't do. Look, I'm not going to throw my kid in the air till they're this close to the ceiling. Okay. I'm just not going to do that. There's nothing in my ovaries or my uterus that are going to allow me to do that. But you do, because men take different types of risk. And that's very good for children to learn, especially female children, because they're learning how to trust a man. They're learning how to understand what's appropriate risk and what's dangerous risk. And that's really important for children to learn how to do. And so again, it goes back to us understanding what our differences are and complementing them in order to be what's best for those kids. I'm not saying that people who have lost their partner, someone's died, someone's moved away, you have a deployed that you can't fill in the gaps. It's just harder. Mm-hmm. And you need to be very creative, right? You need to find male counterparts that can fill those voids. Grandpas, uncles, those are all wonderful people to bring into your children's life. So it can be done, but it is very important that mothers have their downtime and that they are able to cultivate an environment. Look, I own a business. I run a very busy business, and that is not an environment for me to be fully female. It's just not. Mm-hmm. Now, if I can sit in a room and Pride and Prejudice is on and I've got a cup of tea, I'm super creative. I can create the most imaginary, most beautiful place for a child to cultivate and grow and learn and build relationships and play and feel at the most peace. But that can only be done when you have an environment where that can actually thrive. And that's where men are able to provide that safety and that security and that house and food on the table and water at the house. Those are the really important parts and puzzle pieces that men bring to the table that just, I'm not saying women can't do. They absolutely can, but they shouldn't have to do, because they should be able to nurture the soul of a child, which is in 100% round the clock, never clock out, always going to be doing from now until eternity. And so men create that buffer system in order for us to be able to do that.
Yes. It's funny that you brought this up in all of that, because I was literally just thinking about this yesterday, like literally yesterday, and I'm not even joking. I was wondering why I have this inherent need when I pick up my kids to throw them in the air. Like, it's not even like a forethought or anything. I just do it. You know what I mean? And I was watching a video yesterday of a dad just picking up his kid and doing that. And I was like, I wonder why we just do that. When did that start? You know what I mean? Like, why do we just do that out of nowhere?
It probably looked something different in 1900 or 1802, but it's very culturally defining of it's the same. Like, you get on the ground and you build forts, or you turn an old tire and a piece of wood into a jump ramp for the training tricycle, or you you guys are digging in the backyard, or you're letting him play with the pocket knife, but he's supervised, right? Men are phenomenal at doing dangerous things safely. It's, again, not to say that women and mothers can't do that. It's just our bodies wired different. Mm-hmm. Women are always in danger. We are always at risk of being marginalized. And so we are constantly on the defensive. We're always looking for what can kill us. So kind of look at it as a different sides of the animal kingdom, right? The lion isn't running around the pride going, I hope nothing comes to eat me, right? But the meerkat is. So the women are more like that. We're more at risk. We're more vulnerable to outside forces, and we're the lesser, the weaker of the sexes. And I hate using that, but this is the only words in the English language I have. Women are super strong, do really cool things. We do really big things. We just do them differently. But when children are involved, my job is to make sure it doesn't die. And so I have to feed it, and I have to sacrifice my human body so it can live, right? So that's breast milk, that's birth, that's delivery, that's pregnancy, and also giving up a huge portion of who I am so that baby can be emotionally developed. When we do not attach to our parents in a safe and loving way, we struggle later on, and sometimes forever, on having healthy attached relationships, not only romantically, but also with friends. So this lonely issue that we have, it is not just a men's issue, it is also women. But this loneliness that we have in the culture and community, especially with millennials, is because we just didn't attach to our boomer parents, and we didn't do so appropriately. And now we're suffering with not being able to cultivate those relationships we deeply desire, even if they're just friendships. How many times have we seen on social media of people going, I don't have any friends. Like, I don't have a close knit. I wouldn't know who to call at 3:00 in the morning if I had a tire blow on the side of the road. And that's because we just didn't start the life off appropriately, right? We had moms that were going to work because they had to. And now we've got this whole thing of, well, I fed you, I provided a house, what more do you want from me? Mentality of what you were talking about earlier. And that really stems from, I have this 8-pound, 6-ounce thing that looks like a burrito, but it also has my nose, and I don't know what to do with it. And so I talk a lot about that in my class of like, this is how you bond with a baby. This is how you communicate. This is how you talk to them. And because no one taught us, and you can't do something if no one taught you how to do it.
Right. Absolutely. I will say for, actually for both sexes, really, if anybody is first-time parent that happens to be listening right now, and the baby hasn't come yet, I think it's very vital and very important for you to have skin-to-skin contact with your child fairly close to when they arrive. So that's something that I did with both. I'm so used to saying both because I'm so used to two because I have teenagers, but I do have a third. So I've done it with all three of them. And there's a thought that I've been having, and I've stated a couple. I think I've at least talked about it maybe once or twice on this podcast. You brought up spirituality. I think giving birth is a very spiritual thing. It's very spiritually creative and all that. And I wonder if the they, whoever they is, perpetuated this this culture of abortion because women and possibly even men as well, when they have a child, it's like it's important for you to spiritually ascend, if that makes any kind of sense.
Absolutely. Yeah, you are a whole new version of yourself, not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. You can either embrace that journey or you can reject it. And when we reject it, we have scars from that. So when we intentionally end the life of a whole new individual life force, right? A whole new strand of DNA, a whole new soul, and we've participated in that. Yes, there's going to be soul ties, then there's going to be spiritual consequences that are going to going to take place for sure.
Yeah. Everybody that I've met too, all the women that I've met, obviously men can't have abortions, but but all the women that I've met who have it, I mean, if you need, like, there's obviously circumstances where you kind of need one, like medical. I personally think the only time that it should be used is to save the life of the mother. That's the only time, in my opinion. I would prefer it not to happen at all. And I'm sure that there's maybe a group of people listening that would be like, how dare you say that? But shit, where was I going with this thought? Oh, yes. Every woman that I've met has been a very angry person, very quick tempered, who has had that happen. And I just don't think it should be used as a birth control. And my thought is when you do something, when you're choosing to do something, you have to live with the consequences. So if you are choosing to do the act, the consequence of that act is a child. So if you're not ready for that consequence, you should not be doing the act.
Right, and that goes for men too.
Exactly, 100%.
Yeah, because I definitely understand where women get very angry about, well, I'm the only one that gets the consequences. And that is true. Yeah. That is true. I don't disagree with that statement, which is why I do believe men need to participate in that as well. So we end people's lives because they're inconvenient. Otherwise, there'd be no toddlers. I don't know many toddlers that are super convenient. They are difficult. They're time consuming. You cannot leave them alone. They will wreck your house. Do they mean to do it intentionally? No, they're just at an exploration phase. I also don't know many 10-year-olds that are super convenient. All right. They ask a lot of questions. They're not super helpful around the house. They tend to whine a lot because they're in an in-between stage. They're not a teenager, but they're not a child anymore. That's a very hard place to be. I don't know many 90-year-old people that are super convenient. They take a lot of time. You have to wait for them to get out of the car. They're very slow. It's hard for them to process data. So when we start opening up the doors of it's inconvenient and we remove things from the planet simply because they're inconvenient, such as humans, where exactly do we stop?
Right. Exactly. That's my thought. 100%. Is, I will say for myself, my firstborn was like, he saved my life, honestly, because I talk about it, a lot with, friends and stuff. I was going down a bad path. I wasn't the best human that I could be. And then, literally the thought of me having a kid, I completely changed I was cage fighting. I was getting into real fights out in the streets all the time. I was getting arrested all the time doing stupid stuff and, following around with stupid people. And then, the thought of my son coming, I was like, all right, I gotta get a real job. And once I got a real job, it only went up from there. I mean, yeah, there was obviously hard times and stuff, but I think spiritually, I needed that kick in the ass.
Well, we all need a kick in the tush from time to time. It helps gets us on track, and that can look like a child for one person, and it can look like a death of a parent to another, right? So, It is really important for us to realize that every person on the planet, no matter how big or small they are, plays a really vital role in so many other people's lives, that simply just removing them because of their lack of development, their size, and their convenience is evil.
Absolutely. My favorite saying is, God created Earth, and then he looked upon his creation and he knew it needed one of you.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And that is really touching. It doesn't really matter how many times you hear that, you get a little kind of goosebumpy, because you're like,
Yes.
oh, I'm just this teeny tiny little person in this big ball of wax. And oh my gosh, how I was supposed to be here at this exact particular time. That's pretty special.
Absolutely. Like you were saying, you could be removing somebody who was meant to do, like, just cross paths with somebody, like, say, like, somebody, I don't know, somebody significant that, or whatever. Anyways, I can't think of a person to base it off of, but like, just because you feel like your life isn't much, and you're like, well, why would God has no plan for me? I haven't done. You could have inspired somebody to do better in their life at some point. You could have inspired somebody to, start creating something or whatever. Like, there's authors out there that have inspired me to write, and that's what I am trying to do now. I'm in my late 30s at this point, and I've always wanted to be a writer since second grade, and that seed was planted by my second grade teacher, and I'll never forget her because of that.
That's wonderful.
Right. And so she exists because she sparked that in me. So I'm not saying that was her main existence, but if she didn't exist, who knows if that seed would have been planted at that point in time.
For sure. And there are stories that we will just never hear about while we're here on this planet, right? Like,
right.
Sure, the Mozarts and the presidents and big name people that we all know and can all rattle off. Sure, they are very vital people in the big scheme of things. But I would argue that it's the mundane person and the everyday person that is probably way more important than those big people, simply because they play just as much of an important role in the butterfly effect than anyone else does.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I have kind of like the same thing saying, because first of all, I love my country. I don't love my government very much. So I say this a lot, is that what makes this country great is the people, not the politicians, because we're a melting pot. We have so many cultures. We celebrate everybody. Everybody has something that they bring to the table, and we, for the most part, we get along, Mm-hmm. We can live cohesively as long as you don't tell people who you voted for. Everything's okay, stuff like that. But I don't know. I love this country, and to be able to go out free and say things that I want to say, no matter, regardless. I mean, obviously, like I said earlier, everything you do has a consequence. So yes, you have the freedom to say and do things, but you also have a consequence to your words and to your actions. So, but yeah. I love what you do. So how often are you getting your classes together? Like, how often do you have a class? Or do you have different sections?
I have I'm all over the country. So mm-hmm. I'll be in San Antonio on the 13th of September. I'll be in Tennessee, Orlando. I'm all over the place. So I'm pretty booked for the rest of the year, and then we'll drop next year's classes here pretty soon. We're finishing those up, but yeah, I'm all over the place. So I teach often, and I just like to keep this class going as much as possible so everybody can have a chance to kind of jump in and make it accessible to as many people. If a group is interested in the class, like I have a couple organizations that have reached out to me, and they say, hey, we have a group of people, we'd love to have a private class. That's an option, and I have plenty of those as well. Mm-hmm. That we do for people. But normally it's I pick kind of the bigger areas, the bigger cities, and fly in. I'm there for a couple of days. We knock out a class, so it's an all-day class. It's 4 hours in the morning of kind of the didactic, or pardon me, didactic kind of learning in front of the slideshow type presentation, and then the whole afternoon until you feel comfortable is us doing hands-on. I bring really fun mannequins. They're wearable and interactive and all sorts of fun things, and we have a great time.
Nice. Do you offer like kind of like this online stuff, or is it all in person?
Right now they're just in person, and there's a reason for that. It's really hard to teach the hands-on portions via online.
Right.
Mannequins are really freaking cool, and they really solidify the training that we do in the beginning. I do understand that a lot of people are not able to do that. There's people that are in Australia, England, Canada, and Ireland has reached out to me several times. I get that them flying to the States is just not, that's like not an option. And I get that. And so the goal is eventually, but I don't know when that will happen, to make it available online. But again, it would just be the lecture portion. There's not a lot you can do with getting kind of your hands dirty. It's not really dirty. It's more a bunch of fake blood is what it is.
Nice. Yeah, because I had assumed that it was all in person, but I didn't know if you offered it online at all. But so one question that I love asking everybody, it's my absolute favorite actually, is are you finding fulfillment in your life doing what you do?
Yeah, in this aspect of my life, I definitely find fulfillment because I love teaching. I have a huge passion for it for a multitude of reasons. One, school was really hard for me. I have some learning disabilities, and it just makes it really difficult to understand some things. And so I've decided to use those as a way to communicate with people that just makes hard subjects, and a subject that feels intangible to most, become very tangible and really be able to dive into that. And so I really strive hard to make things super interactive, very hands-on, where you walk away and go, geez, I mean, I hope I don't have to do that, but I totally could. Like, I know I could do that. And that's fun. That's really rewarding for me. And again, I'm not going to be on this planet forever. And I'm sort of done delivering everybody's babies full time. And I love teaching. And so being able to kind of pass the torch and be able to say, hey, you are totally capable of doing this. Whether it's your goal is to exit the medical system because you had a crappy hospital birth. You don't want to do that again. It can't be that hard. We deliver goats. Why can't we deliver humans? Yeah, I agree with that statement. Whether it's because you don't want to have documented kids, and so you just don't want to be, you want to be totally off grid. You just don't want to do this anymore. Great. I'm your girl. I can help you do that. So that's a really important thing. But a majority of my business is really working with the military and helping those guys that are working out of backpacks, jumping out of perfectly good airplanes. That's not my thing. Being able to survive and take care of people. I've gotten satellite phone calls from students who are like, I just delivered my interpreter's wife's baby.
Wow.
I just created a relationship between us to where, like, we're all not going to get shot now. So that's kind of cool. That's awesome. Being able to help people in those scenarios. Like, I'm not going to be where those guys are at. I'm not going to go do those things, but I played a role in being able to do that. And that's pretty rewarding.
That's awesome. That is really awesome. I've thought about going off grid like 100 times. I think it'd be beneficial, but I was curious on what your thoughts are. Do you think that it is what's the word that I'm looking for? Do you think that it is bad, I guess, is the best way that I can. There was a word that I had in my head that I just can't freaking think of to say. So, do you think that it's bad for a kid to be homeschooled, or do you think it is better?
Well, you're talking to
in
a
your
homeschool.
opinion. Oh, cool! Nice. I had a feeling. So
I hope you aren't thinking I'm dorky.
No, not at all.
Yeah. So I did private school for kindergarten and a little bit of first grade. There was a pretty big incident that took place, and my mom marched me out of there, and I didn't go back. It was a mixture of decisions that kind of put me into public high school. And if I had a magic 8-ball and a magic wand and some Harry Potter, whatever the heck, I would go back in time and I would not do that. However, yeah, so I was homeschooled most of my life and I absolutely loved it. And I truly believe that it created an environment that enabled me to really dive into subjects that created passion for me in my heart and my soul. So I've always wanted to deliver babies. I have never deviated from that. I know a lot of kids do the whole, I want to be a lion tamer, and then I want to be an astronaut, and then I'm going to play baseball professional. I never deviated from, I'm going to deliver babies when I grow up. And I accomplished that and then some. And I never, ever in a million years thought that I was going to get a phone call from the U.S. Army saying, hey, could you please come train our soldiers? Never in my wildest dreams would I have ever thought that that would be a thing that I would be doing. But it's amazing what doors are opened when children are homeschooled. I just never think I guess I'm not good enough to do that, or someone else is smarter than me. I know that there are other people smarter than me. I know that there are people that are capable to do things that I'm not capable of doing. Mm-hmm. However, there's nothing in my head that goes, I can't do that. It's, I don't know how, so I'm going to ask people and I'm going to figure out how and I'm going to do it. So it's a completely different mindset, and it's not ego in the bad way. It's ego in the good way, right? In the positive, healthy way, in a way of me going, I'm going to figure this out. Okay. I'm just going to throw it all together. It's going to work. I don't know how, and I don't know when, but it will. And that is the heart and essence of a homeschooled kid. There's many, many ways to homeschool your kiddos. I don't love the online public school version. I just think that that's public school a la carte. And I don't think that's what you're really going for if you want homeschool.
I agree.
And, you know, when I was younger, there weren't as many resources as there are today. I mean, there's classical conversations, there's paces, there's a zillion different ways to homeschool your kids. And to be very honest, if there's anybody out there that's just super nervous about this, really until they're 10, and I would say probably even junior high, you can just, as long as they're reading, writing, they know how to do basic math, you're winning. Because they really don't start to do the rest of that junk until junior high and high school, because they're not mentally ready to be writing an essay and doing long mathematical stuff, which is not my area of expertise. Understanding the deep components of science, like they're not ready for that. And most child developers that are like, that's their bread and butter of understanding child development, say they need to be outside. They need to be playing, because playing is learning for children. Mm-hmm. It's understanding relationships. It's problem solving. It's thinking outside the box. So as long as your kids know how to read and write, they can do some basic math, put their butts outside. They should be climbing trees, chasing cows, herding dogs, chasing the cat. Here's the thing. There's this really awesome, it's a clipping, it's an article from probably the 50s that circulates the interwebs every once in a while, but it says the recipe to grow children. You need sun, a creek, you need 2 dogs, a cat, a yard for them to play in, a garden. Those are things that are super duper important. And rather than take, like any good recipe, everybody's going to have a variation in banana bread, right? But the substances are the same. And so if you don't have a big yard, that's okay. Go to the park that day. If you don't have room for a garden, that's okay. Get a tower and do a water one in the bathroom. Or if you can't have a dog, that's okay. Your neighbor does, so go walk their dog. You can create an environment that works for you and works with the scenario that God has given you. Don't let silly obstacles be your no. Just turn it into a yes.
Absolutely. I love that. Because I'll be honest with you. I want to, I actually asked both my teenagers, if I could homeschool them. I mean, I can't, but I wanted to try, in this moment anyway. And my son was like, yeah, let's do it. But I think that was more so like he doesn't want to go to school, but it was still like I would have been actually teaching him shit.
We'll take
Yeah. And then my daughter was like, no. And what's bothering me is that she's kind of like becoming like, well, my friends are doing it person. You know what I mean? Like, I want it. Can I do this? And I'm like, no. Well, my friends are doing it. And I'm like, I don't care if your friend was jumping off the bridge. Like, you're not doing it.
Right.
So with my youngest daughter, she's under 2. She's 18 months. And I got what, 4 years, or a little less, 3.5, to substantiate myself in a situation to where that, because I think I want to homeschool her. And her mother was like, well, I want her to be able to be social. And I'm like, well, you have no idea how many homeschooled kids that I have known throughout my life that are completely social. I was like, she can join rec sports still. Just because she's homeschooled doesn't mean she can't do sports. She can still get into school sports, like if she's still in homeschool, because when I was in 8th grade, our quarterback was a homeschooled kid.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
He was an amazing athlete and all that. So there's a lot of people that think because you're homeschooling your kid, they can't do school sports. They can't do sports and stuff.
Yeah. And I would also add to that, children don't need to be socialized in the way that culture says they need to be socialized.
Yep.
I actually don't want Susie down the street teaching my child what religion is, or what sex is, or what body parts are named, or or what they're watching on their television at their house, or how to answer the door. I don't want her teaching my child how to do. That's my job. So my job as a parent is to teach them how to be the best version of themselves and be a productive human, not in society, a productive human in culture, right? And be an appropriate person. And so that's my job to do. That's not the 6-year-old down the street's job to do. So really, children should not be socializing, because what that really means is I want them to go off and play and learn life on their own. Look, I know the movies Sandlot and Goonies and all that stuff, it's super fun to watch, okay? But go watch those movies with an adult's eyes, and the first thing out of your mouth is, where the blank were their parents?
Yeah, like the tobacco scene. that one kid would never have done it, and he's like, oh, well, they're all doing it, I guess I'll put this big glob of tobacco in my mouth, and then they all get sick.
It's little things like that, but it's also just where were they? And yes, there's an aspect of, those are older children, so
Right.
less of an important example, because I do want 10 and up to go play in the neighborhood and do weird things and build a fort and all that. I do want them to go do that. They need to learn how to step away at that point. But with really little kids, no, not at all. No.
Right.
Siblings are for. That's what the approved neighbor kid is for. That's what church is for. Yeah, like you mentioned sports. I'm not really into that. But things that they maybe it's art class. Maybe it's pottery. Maybe it's ballet. I guess that's a sport. Little things like that where they're trying on new stuff and figuring out who they are, but under the appropriate supervision of a parental guidance so that they can become the person they're supposed to be, but in a safe manner. Being outside and wandering the neighborhood in 1955 was typically safe. Today, it's not so safe. And I'm not necessarily worried about kidnapping as much as I'm worried about them seeing porn or learning how to gamble, like as in for money, or developing any other bad habit that will absolutely tank their life. Yeah, so cigarettes or smoking or trying other bad things. I mean, one dose of just about anything these days could really cost you your life because it's laced with so much crap, right? It's not 1975 marijuana anymore, where that was pretty darn harmless. You've got all these problems of kids doing what they're supposed to do, which is be inquisitive, but it's too dangerous for them to do that now. The average exposure for children to pornography in the United States is 8.
Cheese and rice, that's too much.
So, pornography for anybody at any age is wrong and inappropriate behavior. But I definitely do not want a single-digit age child to be exposed to that. We all know that it changes the chemistry of brain function, and we know that it can be, in certain instances, permanent. Not to mention, it facilitates the thought process of abuse, facilitates children being at risk for trafficking, and a whole host of other issues. So I don't really want my kids to socialize with anybody. Like they're not going to be weird and quirky. And to be very honest, is weird and quirky bad? Because what's outside my front door is legit crazy. So I'm just going to keep my kids away.
Yeah. Literally, what's right out the door is legit crazy. You're not wrong on that at all. So, I brought that up just because I saw a video of a dad who homeschools his kid, and they were out fishing, and some lady had for some reason had an issue with the fact that he wasn't in school, and he's like, oh, he's homeschooled. Well, you don't want him to socialize? He goes, he has me. You know what I mean? So, so my brain just like it goes in all these other places, and I just thought that you'd be a good person to ask, and you obviously were, because your answer was amazing, and I really enjoyed listening to it. So I agree too. I 100% agree with you, but we're about a little over an hour now, so if you don't mind if you don't mind letting everybody know where they can find you and all the things that you have coming up.
Yeah, so you can legally stalk me at combatmidwife.com, and I have all my social medias there, so you can follow me on the Book of Face, Instagram, whatever you love, Twitter, or whatever the heck we're calling X now, right? Whatever we're calling it.
It's still Twitter. I don't care.
Perfect. So you can follow me on all the things. I'm probably most active on Instagram. We have a ton of fun there, but you can find me there. And then if you just really love listening to me chit chat, I have been on a whole host of podcasts, and there's some free resources there. So there's an open source book I have that's available there. There's some articles I've written and a few other things that are all free for you. So you can dive into those. And then my store will have all of the tickets for the rest of the year. And like I said, next year we'll be dropping probably in October or November. We'll drop the dates and locations for those places. And then you can always just send me an email, which is ask@combatmidwife.com. And then, if you just want to ask me a question, I'd be more than happy to help you, or one of us will. And then, because I know your followers will love a discount, if you use the discount code WEIRD, then you can go ahead and get a discount off tickets. So that'll help you out too.
Nice. I love it. I love discounts, so I feel like everybody else would. I don't think I've ever met anybody that doesn't like a discount. But so she has been on a ton of other podcasts, which actually my good buddy Drewski is the one that literally messaged me, was like, dude, you got to talk to this lady. He goes, I know it'll be great. I know it'll be a great conversation. And he put out an episode with her maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago, I think it was. I'm not 100% sure, but it was in that time frame. And every conversation when you're guesting on a podcast is always a little bit different, and there's always a little different takeaways and stuff. So I implore you guys to go listen to Drew's and the other ones if you want to kind of like get a little bit more information about what Jess does. And but anyways, so with that being said, I will put all of her stuff in the show notes so that you guys can find her easily, which I don't see. She just literally told you where to go, so that should be totally fine. But we do have some people that are like, I don't know what it is. So, it will be down there. But other than that, please like, follow, share, subscribe, leave a rating and review. I would greatly appreciate ratings and reviews. If your catcher doesn't allow you to leave a rating and review, please consider doing so on wheretheweirdonesiarepodcast.com. That is also where you can get some merch, hot sauce, coffee, and some supplements if you're feeling froggy enough. I also have some short stories on there as well. And that is pretty much it. Also, if you do have stories and you have something to talk about that you want to share, definitely hit me up at wheretheweirdonesiare@gmail.com. So other than that, I think you should definitely check out her classes and all that. And I want to say I really appreciate you taking the time to come chat with me today, because time is our greatest currency, in the fact that you chose to spend it with me. It means the absolute world to me.
Thank you, Kevin. I really appreciate you. We had a great chat, so thanks for having me on.
We did have a great chat. I really enjoyed this one. So, all right, guys, catch you in the next one. And you know the drill. Question everything and stay weird.
In the quiet of the night, when the world feels far, there's a voice through the static, like a falling star. It calls the misfits, the dreamers, the ones who see the shadows in the corners, the truth we barely believe. From the pine tree woods to the desert skies, they talk of ghosts and aliens with wonder in their eyes, not afraid to ask the questions that others won't dare, 'cause the world gets strange when you stop and stare. Come gather around where the weird ones are, by the fireside glow or a midnight call, where the stories run deep and the secrets fly like owls in the dark or stars in the sky. If you've ever felt lost, like you don't belong, you found your place, you found your song, right here where the weird ones are. They'll talk of cryptids, time slips, and deja vu, of spirits that linger, and what might be true. But more than the monsters, it's the people you'll find who dare to be open with curious minds. It's not about fear, it's the thrill of the ride, to question the world with wonder as guide. So pull up a chair, let your freak flag fly. We're the seekers of truth beneath the sky. Yeah, come gather around where the weird ones are, on the moonlit thoughts and cosmic scars, where the veil feels thin and the questions burn, and we chase the strange at every turn. You're not alone, not in the dark. You're with a tribe. You found the spark right here where the weird ones are. For the ones who wonder, for the ones who know, welcome home.